So today we're talking about what's happening with XDefiant. Now, I've not made a video on XDefiant in around about 2 months or so, and I have my reasons for why I haven't played this game for a long time, which I'm going to talk about in the second part of this video. But for the first part of this video, I want to talk mainly about the news that we've had surrounding XDefiant, starting from an article a few weeks ago that I haven't talked about on the channel, leading up to the official confirmation of Season 2, which came out just yesterday. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, you've probably already heard, and that is on XDefiant's steadily declining numbers and the potential of it being cancelled by Season 3. Now, this article comes from Tom Henderson, who's a very credible source, and he has his own sources across the gaming industry, and pretty much anything he says has been on record to come to be true. Now, I'm going to bring up 2 quotes from this article, and we'll discuss them just after. So, he says, internally, optimism for the game has shifted primarily due to the game's continuously declining player numbers and lack of player spending. One source told me that the game has been struggling to obtain 20,000 concurrent players across all its platforms, whereas another source says that Ubisoft would probably be happy with that number, suggesting that it's now much lower. The declining numbers have created tension and anxiety within the team, with sources who spoke to me believing that more layoffs are only a matter of time. And the second quote in this article, which is probably the more important one here, as for XDefiant's future, leadership is betting all their money on Season 3 to turn things around, but with Black Ops 6 set to release between Season 2 and Season 3, those I spoke to are feeling pessimistic about the game's future. One source even went as far to say, expect more Ubisoft San Fran layoff headlines within 6 months. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the layoffs. It sucks that people are losing their jobs just this easily. I mean, I'm pretty sure we had something recently with Microsoft where a good amount of the staff were laid off, and it must be really shit to have your job just cut like that. And people are really quick to attack the devs on any games, but you've got to bear in mind most of the decisions that you might not be happy with, or anything you might not be happy with within a game, probably isn't the devs' fault. They're just people trying to do a job. But the main thing in this article that I want to address is the steadily declining numbers with XDefiant. I think, in my opinion, it's no question that XDefiant is losing players. It's just the way it is. And I'll talk about my opinions on that later on. But I think even just with the state of YouTube, like 3-6 months ago, everybody was making XDefiant videos. Everybody was watching them. You don't see them anymore. It's just nowhere near as popular as it was. And I think that's just a fact. Now, whether these numbers are low enough for Ubisoft to pull the plug just after 3 seasons is an entirely different question. I personally don't know if that's the case, but Tom Henderson, like I said previously, is a very reliable source, so this is very possible that these talks are happening. Whether it's confirmed or not, we don't really know. He doesn't say here that it's definitely confirmed. He just says that it's something that's potential. With the numbers going down, it's possible that the game gets cut by Season 3 or after Season 3. And I mean, with Black Ops 6 coming out between Season 2 and Season 3, I'm not optimistic. I mean, Call of Duty is just the biggest FPS game out there. It's just a fact. And something like XDefiant just can't compete with it. I mean, a lot of casual people will just flock to Call of Duty. They're not going to go to something to XDefiant. So I think in terms of competing with Black Ops 6, it's not going to happen. Now, this article came out at the end of August. I think a lot of people read this and kind of saw it as XDefiant is dead. After Season 3, it's not going to exist anymore, basically. And just yesterday, we had the confirmation for Season 2 of XDefiant, and we also got the Year 1 roadmap, which I'm going to throw on screen here. And this straight away just debunks what was said by Tom Henderson. We've got the Season 2 and all the things that are being added to the game, the quality of life changes. But then there's also Season 4 as well. So it's confirmed that we're getting 4 seasons of XDefiant, which will lead us to the end of Year 1. Now, just because we see Season 4 on the Year 1 roadmap, that doesn't necessarily mean that we will be getting a Season 4. I mean, it's very possible that by Season 3, the player numbers are still not very good, and Ubisoft decide, right, that's it, you're done. We're pulling the plug, and we're just going to cut our losses. That could happen. But this at least shows that there are plans for a Season 4. And it's possible that Ubisoft are just leading them along until the end of Season 3, then they'll kind of make their decision there. But this shows that they're at least planning for 4 seasons of XDefiant and a full Year 1 of content. And this blog post they released talks a little bit more about XDefiant, but I want to focus on this paragraph on screen here. And this paragraph is basically addressing the state of the game and kind of just hitting the question straight on, is the game dying? No, the game is absolutely not dying. We know there are things we need to improve like netcode and hit reg and adding more content to progression, but the game is doing well. We just wanted to do better. And we do that by addressing the concerns of our community, which has always been the plan. Ubisoft is very much behind us and has allocated more resources to the team in order for us to do that. So from what they say here, pretty much everything that Tom Henderson said is not true and has basically been debunked. But you gotta read this more than face value. I mean, they're gonna say this. This is coming from the XDefiant team themselves, and they want to restore confidence in the community. If they come out and say, oh, the player numbers aren't great, but we're working on it, that's not going to restore confidence in the community, and people are just going to be like, right, fuck this. If they're done by season 4, I'm done now. I'm not sticking around. So I would basically just take everything that we've talked about so far today with a grain of salt. I mean, it's very interesting to see what Tom Henderson has talked about with the XDefiant player count steadily decreasing across all platforms as well. And it is very possible that by season 3, XDefiant is no longer going to be supported, which would be really sad because I think XDefiant had and has a lot of potential. And obviously the XDefiant team here are basically trying to debunk everything that Tom Henderson said, but I think this is to try and restore confidence and to bring people back. I mean, they've just announced a new season. They've got a list of things here that they're going to be addressing, which I'm assuming a lot of it is going to be what the community wants, and they want to bring people back. And by them saying the game isn't dying, come back to the game with the new season is obviously they're trying to restore faith. But do I think this is enough to bring people back to XDefiant? I mean, talking from my experience, I remember when XDefiant was first talked about, what, over a year and a half ago now, and it was basically reigned as the Call of Duty killer. And a lot of the hype that was in 2023 for XDefiant, I think it's pretty much died by now. And that was because obviously we had the open beta back in like summer 2023, and they kind of just strung us along until what, spring 2024, which is like 9-10 months of being strung along. Oh, the game's coming, we're working on it, don't worry. And I think that probably shook the faith of a lot of people, but it also lost a lot of the steam that XDefiant had behind it. So I think if XDefiant released back then in 2023 after the open beta, it's very possible that we'd be seeing a completely different story here, but obviously that's not the case. And the thing is with XDefiant, the gimmick is kind of over. I mean, yeah, sure, it does a lot of things that Call of Duty used to do that was a lot better, like say the lack of skill-based matchmaking, but it also has a lot of features that are lacking. For example, a lack of prestige mode and an actual good mastery camo system. I mean, the mastery camo system in the game at the moment, in my opinion, is boring. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's frustrating as hell in Call of Duty to have to get, 50 long shots and 50 headshots and blah, 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 but I think it's more interesting and more engaging than 400 weapon levels. That is just flat out boring, and there's no ultimate reward to go for either. I mean, with weapon mastery, you're talking a single gun and that's it. And I do see in the Season 4 roadmap, Weapon Mastery 2.0 is coming out, but, I mean, by then Black Ops 6 will be out. Do you know what I mean? I don't care anymore. Black Ops 6 is going to be out, and this is possibly the biggest COD we've seen in a long time. So for them to have to go up against that is tough. I mean, they were going up against Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 this time last year. They were obviously against Modern Warfare 2 in its current life cycle, and Modern Warfare 3 is basically a DLC add-on. So I think XDefiant could have done a lot better back then, built up its reputation, and maybe held a candle to Black Ops 6. But like I said, I think in my opinion, there's just not enough substance in XDefiant. Like, it's a very fun game to pick up at first, and I really did enjoy XDefiant a lot when it launched, and even into Season 1. But I think after a certain amount of time, it kind of gets repetitive, it kind of gets boring. There's nothing really to work towards, and they talk about spending as well. I think Tom Henson talked about spending in his article. The cosmetics are boring. They really are boring. You see more wacky stuff in Modern Warfare 3 than XDefiant, which is really weird because for the art style of XDefiant, I was expecting a lot better cosmetics, but there's nothing really in the game that kind of caught my eye. So to sum up this video, is XDefiant dying? I mean, I think since the launch of the game, it definitely has had a downward decline, but I mean, that's the case with pretty much every game unless you get a very solid live service game like, I don't know, Rainbow Six Siege or GTA Online. And obviously, despite what has been said by Tom Henderson with the game being pulled by Season 3 and the XDefiant team coming out and basically debunking everything that he said, I would take both sides with a grain of salt and just see what happens, because we don't know for certain what's going to happen until it does. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Sorry it's Black Ops 6 gameplay in the background. I don't actually have any XDefiant gameplay on my PC, so it is what it is. Thanks for watching. See you later.